movie you selected is Bad Boys for Life, starring Will Smith.
Neo Jackson.
Hey everyone, welcome to Roll Call, the show where two childless millennials gush over movies and follow an actor's journey from their early years all the way up to their blockbuster hits.
Because, let's face it,
We ride together, we die together, Blockbuster for life.
not according to Blockbuster.
Blockbuster
Or
was like
Netflix, for that matter. Netflix would disagree.
It would.
What's up, everybody? I'm Bria. And Simone, would you wear a condom if you fucked a witch?
That was my question! No,
Well,
I wouldn't.
we can answer the question later.
Okay,
I
okay.
mean, we can talk about it more. So you said no, you wouldn't. But,
No.
oh.
Would you?
I feel like you should be safe. So unless we've got tested, me and this witch, then or wizard, whatever floats your boat, then. And you know what's funny? I just made a TikTok kind of about Brujeria, and I was like, "What isn't this a bitch that like this movie contains such subject matter?" So we'll talk about that later.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yes. I was vibing with this witchery. And hey everyone, I'm Simone, and I hope this podcast can penetrate your soul.
That was going to be my other one. Wow, look at us. So if you don't know by now, we are talking about Will Smith in it's not the closer maybe, now that we've watched it, because I know at the end of Spies in Disguise, Simone thought it was the last one, but it might not be. But the third installment of the Bad Boys franchise with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, called Bad Boys for Life. And that's right, we finally made it to 2020.
All right.
And we're still alive, so.
We're still alive. And this movie came out right in the early stages of 2020, January. And because of that, I hear that box office wise, like, did pretty well because there was not much.
And I'm wondering, I wonder how many people this is like their last movie they saw before like COVID.
I bet.
I'm gonna make a TikTok about that and see if anyone responds. But
I mean, I told you what my last one was that I deeply regret.
I don't remember what mine. Oh, you know what? Fandango might help me out.
Ooh.
Yours was Cats, right?
It was Cats.
That's funny. That's funny.
I'm not going to talk too much about pop culture, but I did kind of look up. So as I was watching Bad Boys, I was thinking, you know what? I feel like culturally, this movie kind of has like, I don't know if like a cult following's the right word, but I feel like there's definitely a fan base to the Bad Boys franchise. I think of it very similarly to how like a Fast and Furious franchise follower might love, hate. Like we accept the fact that are these movies like going to be these like show-stopping, gut-wrenching, Academy Award-winning movies? No. But are they going to entertain the fucking shit out of us? Yes, they are.
Yes.
So I found a really cool article from Collider, and it was how the pure bayham of Bad Boys affected the action genre for over a decade. And this one kind of focuses more on Bad Boys 2. But this article was actually published in January 2020. So this kind of was published after the third movie came out. And the subtitle of this is A Deep Dive into Michael Bay's Most Recklessly Insane Movie Influenced 10 Years of Blockbusters, which love the terminology and vocab. This article was written by Vinny Mansusko. And I'm not going to read you the whole thing, But it is a great article. We can definitely link it for those who are kind of interested. But it starts out by saying there's no discernible difference between doing cocaine and watching the film Bad Boys 2. The closest comparison possible to director Michael Bay's 2003 buddy action sequel would be if you force fed a computer nothing but John Woo movies and made it direct a Limp Bizkit video. Bad Boys 2 is a disaster portrait painted by an artist with Uzis for hands. It is a chaotic sonnet composed by Monster Energy drink cans. It is undoubtedly the peak of Bayhem, as obviously a tribute to Michael Bay, Bayhem Mountain, and I'm pretty sure Michael Bay has been chasing that knife edge balance between cinematic coolness and cruelty ever since. And since he's mostly failed, Bad Boys 2 would have remained a fascinating time capsule into a very different time, and nothing more if a sequel, Bad Boys for Life, wasn't hitting theaters a whopping 17 years later. With Will Smith and Martin Lawrence gearing up for one last ride, this time without Bay in the director's chair, it's the perfect time to look back at not only Bad Boys 2, but also the way it's morphed entire action genre in the years after Michael Bay threw a speedboat into the face of many moons ago. The article goes into a kind of a quick synopsis of Michael Bay's history as a director, and a recap of the just the synopsis of what Bad Boys 1 and 2 was about. But the entire vibe of Bad Boys 2 is distilled into its most famous scene, an elaborate car chase on the Miami freeway in which Mike and Marcus speed after a crew of Haitian hitmen who have commandeered a vehicle transport truck. It's important to note when discussing the way Michael Bay paces his movies that this genuinely insane, near 15-minute set piece arrives less than 30 minutes into the movie. For a filmmaker as obsessed with sexiness as Michael Bay, he's not too concerned with foreplay here, nor is he too bothered by collateral damage. As the baddies literally launch cars onto the road, so many faceless pedestrians and police officers get caught up in the chaos. Dudes just trying to get to work in Fort Lauderdale end up flipping through the air in a Toyota Camry like 16 times. Mike definitely dodges all of it in a Porsche Turbo, which perfect summary of Bad Boys 2, a movie so steadfastly focused on being cool as shit at all times. It doesn't ever dwell on the badass destruction it's causing. No consequences, only quips. Bad Boys 2 is an effective placemaker in movie history. It's basically a big, loud hinge the modern day action genre swung on. Action is fascinating, a style easily derided as mindless that has also produced some of the greatest movies of all times. Forged from the agelessly oiled up fires of Schwarzenegger and Stallone movies in the 80s, and then crystallized by Die Hard in 88, and the 90s were a great time for action. Legitimately all-timer T2 Judgment Day, motorcycles onto screen in 91, and Speed, Face Off, The Matrix, yada, yada, yada. But the genre has always been a tug of war in itself, of a question of, do you want us to say something or just go boom? Remember, the 90s also had Wild Wild West. The new millennium is a land full of forgettableness for action movies underneath the franchise at the top of the ladder, like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man and Lord of the Rings. To reiterate, Bad Boys is a great time. The fact that its definition of extremely entertaining and extremely bad had a ripple effect on American action movies for the longest time. Whenever someone reminisces about the days you could just turn off your brain and watch a movie purely for entertainment, forget about the world, the phrase is, I'm convinced they're unconsciously referring to Bad Boys. If not, then recklessly the spirit of Bad Boys. So the article, again, just kind of like goes off to say some of the other movies that the writer thinks particularly were influenced by the Bad Boys franchise. But I liked the overall writing of the article. I thought it just really captured the like fuck it spirit that these movies have. And now after watching 3 of them, I kind of want to go back and rewatch 1 and 2 and see if my overall rating about them would change, because dare I say, I feel a little like nostalgic about the series now, and that's a mindset that I've like shifted and changed.
Yeah, I was looking to see what my ratings were from those, and I would change my rating for 1. My rating for 2 is 4. So it's like the highest it can be. But yeah, after watching this one. Anything else?
No, that was pretty much it.
Well, I don't really, I mean, per now that we're kind of current,
Hmm.
I didn't really look at like black pop culture, but we have some pop culture because with another Bad Boys comes another banging soundtrack. So, if you haven't listened to the Bad Boys for Life soundtrack, then may I suggest you do. We've got songs from Faruko and Meek Mill, not Meal, J Balvin and the Black Eyed Peas, Quavo, Rich the Kid. I can't see the rest of whose name is this. Oh shit! Wait. Okay, so the J Balvin Black Eyed Peas song is also with Jaden Smith. Money Fight, the City Girls, which I noticed when in the movie. I was like, oh my god, they got the City Girls in here. Ritmo featuring the Black Eyed Peas and J Balvin, and like I said, Jaden Smith. Future Bright, Rick Ross featuring Bryson Tiller. Bad Moves, DJ Durrell featuring Quavo and Rich the Kid. Muy Vielo, sorry if my Spanish is bad. Nicky Jam and Daddy Yankee. Damn, I
Daddy
Love Miami.
Yankee.
Pitbull and Lil Jon.
Of course, there's a Pitbull
The
song.
Hottest by Jaden Smith, Murder She Wrote by Buju Banton, and Ritmo, the remix, the Black Eyed Peas, J Balvin and Jaden Smith. So he's on the remix of that song. But look at Jaden getting two songs on his dad's movie soundtrack. Like,
Okay.
so yeah, I mean, I didn't listen to the soundtrack, I'll be honest.
Hmm.
I kind of forgot and didn't have time. But throughout the movie, I did notice the music, and I was like, oh, it's kind of weird that this is like really current. Because, like, rewatching the older movies, it's like, oh, like, I remember this, like, and it's nostalgic. And this is like, oh, yeah, this is like now. Like, so that was interesting. And that's all I've got.
I'm kind of surprised that DJ Khaled didn't have a song in this movie. He had a little bit of skin in the game.
Right?
All right, so before we get into those box office numbers, here were some of the other movies that were also released in January of 2020. We have a Gretel and Hansel movie, which is a play on it's like a scary version of the Hansel and Gretel story. There is movie called The Gentleman starring Matthew McConaughey. There's a Jay and Silent Bob reboot. There's a really cute movie that I don't know if it was I didn't see this in the theaters, but I did end up watching it on Amazon where it was streaming called Troop Zero, which is about this kind of like ragtag Girl Scout group. It was super duper cute. Um, there was a Doolittle movie starring Iron Man, and there is
Robert Downey
thank
Jr.
you. Sorry, my mind is like, "Brr." There's Just Mercy, 1917, a really great animated short called Loop, which is about a girl who is nonverbal, most likely on the spectrum, and she kind of partners up with another kiddo at like a summer camp, and they go on a little rowboating adventure together. It's really sweet, and yeah, that's about it. That sticks out to me at least.
Interesting. Wait, because I feel like I talked about Just Mercy. Did Spies in Disguise came out 2019?
Yeah, December 2019, and Just
Oh,
Mercy
wow. So, like,
was
back to back
yeah, yeah,
movies. And he had a lot in 2019, anyways. Will Smith was back on the hamster wheel.
sure was.
Um, okay. Well, box office numbers. Of course, for an action movie, the budget's going to be big. Bad Boys for Life had an estimated $90 million budget.
Oh my God.
Oh, let's see how that compares to the other one.
Oh yeah. Do you want to do Bad Boys 1? I'll do Bad Boys 2.
Sure. So, Bad Boys budget, what the first Bad Boys in 1995, its budget was $19 million.
Oh my goodness. Um, for Bad Boys 2, the budget was about 130 million estimated. Opening weekend was 46.5 million. Gross between US and Canada was 138.6, and total gross worldwide was 273.3 million.
Wow. Okay, so for the first Bad Boys movie, the opening weekend was 15.5 million,
Okay.
gross 65.8 million, and gross worldwide $141.4 million dollars.
Okay.
So that just keep going up for the sequels. And then for Bad Boys for Life, we have a opening weekend US and Canada of $62.5 million.
Okay. And I'm
So
sorry, you said
did
it was
better than the
90
first.
million?
Yes, the
Okay.
budget.
Okay.
So it had a better opening weekend than 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then gross US and Canada is 206.3.
Damn.
So still better than 1 and 2. Gross worldwide $426.5 million dollars. So still better. It kind of doubled to
Yeah.
273.
Mm-hmm.
So for some 50-year-old Gen Xers, like not bad. Not bad.
Not too shabby.
And just because I know when we talked about Bad Boys 2, we kind of talked about how long it was. Bad Boys 2 was 2 hours and 27 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
The first Bad Boys was an hour and 59, so almost 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And this one was 2 hours and 4 minutes.
Okay.
So a little less than 2, but still around that same kind of spot as 1 as well. And then we head over to Lil Raj, visit him with our Ouija boards. It's spooky season still. This review, too, is also written again by Odie Henderson. He wrote the review for Gemini Man, which I noted we'd be hearing from him again for this movie. I just want to say, I feel like I really like his voice. Out of all the people who do Lil Raj reviews now, he's like one of my favorites. Definitely not Christy Lemire. Sorry, not sorry. Simone, how many stars do you think Odie and Lil Raj and co gave Bad Boys for Life? Mm-hmm. And how do you think it compares to the first 2 movies?
I think it's going to do better than number 2, but be on par with number 1. And I don't remember their ratings off the top of my head. Do you have their stars pulled up? Okay. Yeah. Did 1 do better than 2? Remind me.
Yes.
Okay. So I think Bad Boys for Life got at least 3 stars.
3 stars?
Yeah.
Okay. You're kind of right, but not completely right about them like being on par. It is better than 2. Okay. So Bad Boys, the first movie, got 2 stars from Roger Ebert himself. Indeed. And then Bad Boys 2 got 1 star.
Also from Little Raj.
Yes. Yeah. From Roger Ebert himself. Okay. 3 more stars than 3 less stars than Legend of Badger Vance, but Bagger Vance. And then Bad Boys for Life comes in at a whopping 2.5 stars. Okay. So it is the highest ranked Bad Boys movie on Roger Ebert's website. Okay. So sorry, Lil Raj, if you're rolling in your grave and you're like, I would never. But this is what Mr. Odie Henderson has to say about Bad Boys for Life. You would have to be a darn fool to believe that Sony thought it had a good movie in Bad Boys for Life. It's being released smack dab in the middle of the cinematic wasteland that is January, the month where bad movies go to die with little fanfare, never to be heard from again. Hell, even that fresh pigeon of Bel Air cartoon, Spies in Disguise, got released during Oscar season. That's a very clever kind of diss. Certainly, you'd expect a little more release date love for the third entry of a hit franchise that stars Will Smith and Martin Lawrence as reckless cops armed with comedic banter and oodles of collateral damage. After all, its predecessors were released in April and July, respectively, and were both directed by Michael Bay. Bay's conspicuous absence added to my suspicions that there was little studio faith in this feature. Surprisingly, Bad Boys for Life is nowhere near as bad as its opening day schedule would indicate. It is the best of the three films, so I feel like he took into consideration the previous two ratings, offering some odd ways a corrective to the prior installments. Unlike the original, this one finds some depth in its female characters. Unlike the second, it's not an exceptionally vile mishmash of Freebie and the Bean and Scarface, whose running time felt approximately 600 hours long. I don't know what Freebie and the Bean is, but this time, detectives Marcus Burnett and Mike Lowry are more mindful of how much collateral damage they do, even if the latter must be constantly reminded to temper his carnage. I didn't buy this kinder, gentler bad boy shtick for 1 minute, but that doesn't mean I was bored. When the climax starts laying telenovela-level melodrama atop the explosions and gunplay while openly cannibalizing ideas from Gemini Man, I had to admire the audacity of those choices. The film opens with the speeding Porsche sequence from the trailer, with Mike and Marcus employing their usual disregard for innocence while engaging in what looks like the pursuit of the latest Miami criminal. Turns out all the stunts are in service to get Marcus to the hospital for the birth of his granddaughter. Now a grandfather, or a pop-pop, as he calls himself, Marcus reevaluates his law enforcement career. Unlike his hothead partner, he has a wife and family and wants to spend more time with them rather than the hundreds of criminals he's been shooting. In the words of a far better buddy cop picture, Marcus realizes he's getting too old for this shit. Mike tries to change his mind. Meanwhile, something is brewing in Mexico, and I literally mean brewing. A self-proclaimed bruja named Isabel Arroitas executes a gruesome Silence of the Lambs style prison breakout, reuniting with her son, Armando. It's all part of a plan to murder the people who put Isabel in prison and her husband in the grave. One of those unlikely folks is Detective Lowry, whom Isabel commands her son to kill last so he can suffer. Castillo plays her role with maximum toughness, so much so that I wish she'd just gone after her enemies herself, but that whole witch character trait had me worried that Bad Boys for Life was going to embarrassingly do for Brujeria what Steven Seagal's Marked for Death did for Voodoo. Armando executes his mother's wishes and enemies while clad in motorcycle gear straight out of Gemini Man. He violates her order of operations, however, going after Mike first. The sequences following this attack attempt to imbue the film with some real emotional stakes, and credit must be given to Lawrence for reminding us that he can convincingly navigate dramatic scenes. Screenwriters use this plot development to sneakily insert a reason for the aforementioned minimization of collateral damage in the action series. Though, rest assured, there's still enough violence for a rather hard R rating. Followers of this series will find a few Easter eggs hidden throughout. My audience laughed heartily at one that, unfortunately, reminded me of the worst scenes in Bad Boys 2, and I think he's talking about the rats.
I remember that. Yeah, there was like some rats and the like decrepit.
I totally thought, I was like, oh my god,
they're gonna be fucking.
Despite the 25-year span between this film and the original, several cast members also return. In addition to Smith and Lawrence, the always welcome Joe Pantoliano is back as Captain Howard, the screaming police chief whose agita is exacerbated by recklessness of his best cops. He's very funny, as is Lawrence, who finds some fresh notes in the screen persona he's been playing since he debuted in House Party. Lest I forget that, like so many recent action movies featuring older stars, this movie gives us a crew of newfangled youths whose knowledge of computers bumps heads with the more hands-on approach of their elders. Here, it's Ammo, a new unit run by Mike's old flame, Rita, and featuring Vanessa Hudgens, and their use of drones hacking is mocked by the old school police officers, so it's only a matter of time before Ammo is forced to use actual ammo to get their jobs done. While Ammo prepares for battle, Rita and Mike generate some believable rom-com sparks. Perhaps the only surprise in Bad Boys for Life is its desire to embroil us in an emotional stake for Mike and Marcus. Not in the superficial buddy-buddy bromantic way you'd expect, but in a sincerely earnest way that is kind of off-putting when you remember how Bay's films avoided any semblance of warmth. Dare I say directors Adil El Arbi and Bilal Fallah steal a page from the old man's laminate playbook that buoyed Pain and Glory and The Irishman, and that Smith and Lawrence do their best to try and pull it off. I had too much, too little, too late reaction to these attempts to fully humanize Mike and Marcus, but your mileage may vary here. If nothing else, I appreciated the attempt. What I didn't appreciate was the ridiculous Marvel-style post-credit sequence that sets up a potential Bad Boys 4, The Return of Thanos, or something like that. What about all that talk of one last time between Mike and Marcus? We didn't need this time, let alone the next, but I digress. While I'm marginally not recommending this one, I'll let you in on a secret. If this were on cable at 3 a.m., I'd watch the hell out of it.
Lovely.
And see. No.
Nice.
So, Simone, what is your Pumps of Butter ranking in the roll call world for Bad Boys for Life?
So, this movie's not directed by Michael Bay. It definitely shows. It feels different, but it's produced by Overbrook Productions and the Bruckheimer world as well. And it's probably for the best that Michael Bay probably didn't touch this one. I kind of liked that there was that bit of a sentimental wrap up to it. Again, I was getting little sprinkles of like family doing stuff together, teamwork, as in the Fast and Furious franchise. And overall, the movie time and the pacing felt good for me. I remember my biggest beef with Bad Boys 2. I was like, it felt so long. I had to like pause it and like take breaks. But for this one, I had a really good time watching it. And overall, I would give this 3 pumps of butter. I enjoyed the action. I enjoyed the kind of it's still very funny. The dialogue kind of shifted from being humorous, but also with that like getting old feeling, but not, I think, relying too much on the getting old trope. I like that they brought back Reggie and other characters from movies past, and yeah, had a good time watching it.
I was gonna go at 2.5 because I gave the original Bad Boys 2.
Mm-hmm.
Which, like, now, looking at that, I'm like, why? Or did I give it 3? No, I gave it 3.
And then you gave Bad Boys 2 4.
I gave 2 4.
Okay.
And I think in honest ranking of these 3, this is, like, my least favorite, but that's, like, heavy on the nostalgia, like, of those two, too. But before I looked at those ratings, I was going to give it a 3, and half of that was just because of like Mike and Marcus and Will and Martin's chemistry, and I feel like it did turn a leaf. Like the beginning, I was definitely like, my second note is I'm torn between did we need this to get made, or could they have done just another movie together and not really just bring back Bad Boys but do something completely different. So I was like kind of like, was this necessary? Like, is this going to be one of those movies I'm like they should have just left it alone? But it turned a leaf for me where I was like, okay, I think they like finally started gelling again and like everything was working kind of again in a similar way, and I was like, okay, this isn't bad. Like, all right. So I don't know. I'm torn between 2.5 and 3. I guess I'll give it 3. But like I said, I would rate the first one differently now. So I would give Bad Boys 4 stars too.
Okay, fair enough.
What would you rate different? How would you rate them differently?
I have to go back
Or
and
you want to rewatch it?
I don't know about rewatching, but I want to
Well, that's what
definitely.
you said. You said you wanted to
Okay.
revisit them.
Yes, I did. I first want to revisit what my score was, and I'll have to, because this was before I switched over my notebook, so I have to look at my old notebook and take a little peek at that. But I think for me, I go 1 just being it's like the first one, even though I remember not really caring too much about what they did for that Tia Leone's character, Julie. Um, but that lovely conversation we were having about that tropical fruit punch, hubba bubba bubble gum. I still can't get it out of my fucking mind, man.
Was that in the first one or the second one? That was in the second one, wasn't it?
I thought it was in the first
No,
one.
it was in the first one.
Yeah.
You're right.
And so I just remember really liking that. Anyways, and it had like all of those lovely explosions and blah 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 blah. I think I would go 1, 3, 2, possibly. But I'm most likely gonna have to rewatch and
1, 3, 2.
and maybe I'm being unfair. Maybe that's just me solely judging it based off the fact that 2 felt long, and I have a child's mental capacity for watching movies, and especially action films typically don't tend to be my favorite genre anyways.
Yeah. I do think I have like a heavy bias. Like I definitely always remembered watching Bad Boys like 1, like it being on TV, or we had the VHS or something. My dad loved Martin, so I feel like I always remember seeing it. But we had Bad Boys 2 on DVD, and I remember watching that a lot, and I feel like I remember my nephew like wanting to watch it a lot. So it just has that like kind of ingrained comfort kind of movie. And I think it's funnier in some ways, and it's just bigger and like flashier, and something about that appeals to me.
Yes.
And Gabrielle Union is
Oh,
better
yeah.
too,
True.
better utilized.
I think the villain in 2 just really bothered me because he was so coked out and unpredictable.
Johnny Tabby.
Yes.
But like that also kind of is amazing because like he does like all this outlandish shit where like he kills that one kid and then his mom's like, "Oh, Johnny, what are you, we gotta send his mom." And it's like, I know, he just killed himself, and like that kind of stuff where it's just like, what? Like,
it was wild.
that just like ups the ante kind of, and like the Hummer crashing through.
Oh,
like,
the
that
Hummer,
shanty
yeah,
town.
driving downhill. Oh my God.
Like, and then like the car scenes in that one with the Ferrari and like Gabrielle Union, like
she drove,
being in that
yeah.
shootout. And like,
Did she drive like an Escalade or something? Or was it also Hummer?
And it was an Escalade, and like the door was off at one point, and then like the car flying over is like they're throwing cars like that. The Reggie scene, which I want to talk about since he's in this movie. So this episode is not about Bad Boys 2. Please go listen to that and the first one. But so I hold them equally the same, but they're nostalgic in different ways. And so that's why I don't rag on Bad Boys 2. Like, I could see why it's problematic, but it's also just it's how you feel about Wild Wild West, where you're like, it's so bad, it's good. Like, it's like, yes, it's shitty, but like, it's so shitty that it's like, you have to kind of like love that they did all that. And like, how many movies go that far anymore, kind of?
Yeah.
And so that's why I don't rag on Bad Boys 2. And this one's just lower for me. And I feel like maybe it's just like, I was thinking about it, and it's like, it's like when you're seeing like the people in your life who's always been like the adults and whatnot, like get older, and it's kind of like a little bit sad and bittersweet. And so this one was kind of like that, like seeing like two of my uncles, like who
Hmm.
used to be like, the young studs and like, on their game, kind of like losing their game a little bit. And like maybe they got a little gas in the tank, but like you kind of want to be like, Unc, sit down. Like, it's okay, let it go. And it's comforting to see them together again and in these roles. So like nostalgia does play a big part in that. So I don't know. It's I'm very I would love to hear other people's opinions and thoughts on these uh these movies and how they feel about them. But yeah. So
Yeah.
shall we talk about the lovely trailer of this movie?
Yes. Yes. Trailer definitely gives the mood and tone. It definitely sets the precedent that they're older, they can't do this forever, but they gotta go in one more time. I really appreciated that the trailer does not really give away the main bad guy and some of the big twists, unlike that we kind of see
Mm-hmm.
in other action movies early on, and like the trope of like the 90s action trailers. But we still kind of generally understand what the movie's going to be about. We know they still work in Miami drug force, like task force PD, like, we know they're gonna be introduced to like a new, younger department in at their work, and we don't, I think, need to really see the bad guys in this kind of trailer. It doesn't matter that we don't see them because we know that they're probably going to exist. And honestly, people don't really care either because they're just more excited to see Mike and Marcus back together.
Yeah. Um, in one of their interviews together, they're like it's their press junket clips and they're like, what about this movie do you think you wanted to keep or whatever? And Martin was like, I wanted, I feel like we made these characters real and like made them people. And so I feel like because of that, people just like us together and stuff, and they just want to go for a ride with us. Like they want to go for another ride with us, and I feel like that encapsulates the trailer too. It's like you
Mm-hmm.
see, it's kind of like the boys are back in town kind of thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely playing on like you like the first one, you like the second one, we're back, and like let's do it again. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's like that lovely slow burn and reveal of like, oh shit, they're back and like they're doing the same shit and like
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So I liked it. I remember. Did you remember seeing this like trailer or hearing about Bad Boys for Life coming out?
I mean, I might have seen it in that cat's.
Same target audience.
Same, exact same audience that's seeing Cats will see Bad Boys. Yeah, no, I definitely remember seeing it and being like, oh, okay, like getting kind of excited just for that nostalgic piece. Similarly to how we might have reacted to like the Men in Black 3 trailer, not the like reboot of the franchise, but just, being like, oh shit, it's always comforting when you see characters, whether or not it's like your favorite franchise. I still
Yeah.
remember getting excited to be like, all right, that's cool. Good for them that they're like
Yeah.
doing that.
It's kind of, to me, I would say this is very close to like seeing the new Top Gun trailer.
Oh my God, that's the
Like,
perfect example.
yeah. So I wanted to see this in theaters. I don't know why I didn't. Various reasons probably, but I kind of wish I did, especially since now knowing that it came out in January and it was like kind of the last bang of 2020 before COVID struck us all. But anyways, cast. Let's talk about cast.
All right.
We, like Odie pointed out, we have a lot of main kind of important people back, and we got some new fresh blood in here.
Mm-hmm.
So besides Will Smith, let's talk about Mr. Martin Lawrence, who we've had also 3 trips on this gravy train with. What do we think of his reprisal of Marcus Burnett in this new movie?
I appreciated that his character had some different stakes. We always knew that Marcus was a family man, cared for his kids, loved his wife, and, wanted to make sure that his family also took as much importance to his job. And I like that they kept on bringing back like old inside jokes like you're gonna turn your good butt cheek on that one, or you're gonna like to the nod of when he got shot in the butt. That was in Bad Boys too, right? That was at the beginning of the second one.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
When they were at the KKK rally.
Yes, and he shot him in the butt. God,
Yes.
that was a good scene when they just like dropped
That was a
there.
good opener. That
That
was
was.
like the best opener probably of
Yeah.
the three, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
But I digress. I still thought that he was very funny and comedic. I loved his moment when he did retire. He's like sitting on the lazy boy with a little like pitcher of wine next to him on the table. I was like, I feel that. I want to be there. I
And I
want
love
to do
that he
that.
was like watching telenovelas
Yes.
and like
And like
gossiping
bonding with the
like
moms. Yeah. The
yeah,
other
or like it seemed
grandparents.
like they were kind of like nannies or maybe other
Oh,
grandparents.
possibly. Yeah.
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 Um but yeah, I I will say I did know I felt like early on his delivery was a little like off to me. Like it felt very like kind of stoic and cheesy. Like it didn't feel as genuine. And I
Hmm.
think as the movie progressed, it started like he started to hit like his comedic beats to me, at least, of like when he said stuff. It felt like natural and stuff. I'm trying to think. There was, I feel like the opening sequence too was just initially kind of cheesy to me. Like, I mean, the chase was fine, but I was like, once they got to the hospital, I was like, oh, come on, like really, like, and that's why I was like, did we really need this? I don't know. But he got better, and I think overall, like his performance was really strong, and I feel like it finally makes sense, like his complaining all the time that Mike is the hot-headed trigger happy one and Marcus is the family man. But like even when he was younger, he was always, and that's great because like you should want to spend time with your family. But like being older, it like that shtick actually really really works well in his favor.
Hmm.
So like it's like absolutely he's close to retirement. Like of course he like is like, can we not do all this bullshit like because you just want thrills like
Hmm.
um so yeah, I it's lovely seeing Martin back on screen too. Next up, I think maybe we should talk about lovely Captain Howard, played by Joe Pantoliano because he's in all three as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
Spoiler alert, he won't be in the next one.
I did
um,
not see that coming. Did you?
No, and I mean, other spoiler alert, when Will got shot, I was like, what the fuck are they doing? They can't kill him this early.
I know. And see, that's what I was saying about the trailers, that they did such a good job kind of like concealing those big twists. But there's this lovely moment that Mike has after he kind of heals from his wounds because he was in a coma, or at least like out for a long time. And, eventually makes a recovery. And that's kind of where the main plot of the story kind of takes place, is his like vengeance on the people that are shooting him down, and also taking out other former agents of stuff that have like worked previous cases. But there's this moment where Mike is with Captain Howard and they're at like a little kid basketball game. And Captain Howard says, the horse represents all of our fears and traumas, and it's got us running around 100 miles an hour to the point that we can't even answer a simple question. Where are you going? So, where are you going, Mike? Mike, you got to take control of your life and you got to grab the reins before the horse runs you off a cliff. And shortly after that, he gets shot by the gunman slash bad person of the movie. So I was kind of like, I felt that
Yeah.
very like deeply. He was like such an integral character, like not a main character, but important, I think, between Mike and Marcus in their career. He's always like hard on them, but like kind of forgiving for like how many times they like would fuck up and stuff. He obviously believed a lot in them and like was always rooting for them and supported them.
Yeah. That one messed with me cuz like as you said, like the main villain and killer in this movie is just like going through kind of like a hit list of people involved with Isabel's incarceration and stuff. And so, like, there are people we don't really know that well, judges and other people. But, like,
Yeah.
Captain Howard, we've spent two other movies with, and seeing him yell at them, and especially all the damage they cause and all that, like, how am I going to explain this? And then also being like, you know what, I'm going to help you guys save Marcus's sister or whatever, or like, you know,
Mm.
I'm going to I'm going to turn a blind eye, and you guys do what you need to do, and I'm not going to like say anything. So it was rough seeing him die, especially because like Marcus retired, and like low-key he should have been able to retire, like all the hell they put him through. And
Yeah.
like, so, and then we'll talk about Will, but it was nice to see him again though, and I'm glad he came back for this. Another person who came back is Marcus's wife, Teresa, who is played by Teresa Randall.
Sorry.
Teresa played by Teresa.
Yeah.
It was nice seeing her. I always feel like they don't do Teresa justice, like, except for the first movie when she's kind of involved in, because she shows up to Mike's apartment, and then like she's kind of just there, and then like the whole scene of them kind of life swapping, and her and Mike are like bonding
Hmm.
over pictures. But this movie, she was in the least, I feel
Yeah.
like, and I kind of wish they gave her a little bit more to do. I know that Odie Henderson says that this movie gave the female characters like more depth than the previous movies, but I don't know. I feel like Teresa could have had a little bit more, especially because part of it too is like Marcus is so hell bent on like, I need to focus on my family, and I can't, like, Teresa's gonna be upset with me, and I need to spend more time. And we saw that kind of bit of her being like, you need to come home more and stuff like that. And I
Hmm.
kind of wish we saw her not nagging him, but like her advocating him for like, you're getting older. I want us to finally get to do this stuff that has been put on hold your whole career, of like us going on vacations or whatever it is that they
Hmm.
wanted to do in their retirement together. Us being grandparents, like you have a grandchild, like that would have been a great conversation to see, and also would have added depth. But I digress. So it's nice seeing Teresa. I wish she had more to do. She didn't do bad with what she had. So.
No. Yeah, I agree.
Up next, should we go ahead and talk about the man, Reggie? Since
He
he was
looked
also,
still the same, but like slightly grown up, like same
yeah,
kind of facial expressions. It looks like he was wearing some kind of like military uniform. I'm so sorry, I don't know off the top of my head like what it was. If it was like
it looked like he
naval
was in the,
Marines.
yes,
Okay.
that's the super series.
Super serious, yeah. So, I mean, it was funny at their wedding how Mike had gotten up and made that speech about like, we scared the shit out of you. Like,
You're still
and
here,
you're
like,
still here. Yeah, I love that. I thought that that was really sweet that they brought him back. And I remember like reading those IMDb facts for Bad Boys too about like the actor that played him had no idea what um, Will and Martin were going to say to him.
mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people were like kind of upset that they were like so mean and cruel to him. But it's all in good fun, I guess. It worked
Yeah.
out. So thought that was funny.
And like the Bad Boys movies are like his only credits. Apparently, he has like is on a podcast maybe, but
Oh,
like the fact, like we've seen kid actors who were like, oh, did they ever do anything else? And like the kid in Bagger Vance, like that was like his first and kind of only role. So
yeah.
like the fact that Bad Boys 2 was like his first and only role, and then like 9 years later, well, actually, shit, 19 years later,
Hmm.
um, or I think it's less than that, but
It was
almost 20 years
17,
later.
17 years after Bad Boys 2.
Yeah. Okay. So 17 years later, they ask him or whatever, and he's like, sure, like, even though I'm not acting, like, yeah, like, I'll
Yeah.
come back. Like, that's kind of cool, because some people would be like, I'm not acting. Like, I don't, no, thank you.
Yeah.
I do wish, because obviously he's with Marcus's daughter, but in the first movie, his sons were very prominent because they were like the older kids.
Yeah.
And I do wish that we got to see like if his sons were like up to anything. Like, did any of them go into law enforcement? Did any of them go into the military or become basketball superstars? I don't know. But
Right. It's a good point.
but yeah, who else do we have here? We have a new kind of love interest for Will, Rita, played by Paula Nunez. I'll let you go first on this one.
Sure, she's beautiful, first of all. There was a scene where they go to infiltrate a club to get one of the
Per
like
usual.
per usual.
I think that's in every movie, right? They go to a club.
They
It's
go to
Miami.
it's Miami, right? It's kind of come with it goes with the territory. And she rocks this like tight mustard yellow dress, and I was like, ooh, she looks stunning. Her character was badass, strong. She carries the what's her team name?
Ammo.
Ammo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so she's like the head of that department. And what like Mike's stipulation of like coming back to like track down the sniper or like gunman was that she kind of is going to be holding the reins on that one and organizing their trips, and kind of like watching over him. And I thought she was great. I kind of wish she was a little bit more like stern in a way.
She was kind of a softie.
She was a little soft, and it's clear that like there's a bit of a attraction, flirtation, love interest between the two. Marcus kept on making fun of Mike and being like, dude, you're being a dumbass right now. Like, you're so stupid. Like, you're missing an opportunity for a really good girl. But she didn't really return a lot of that sentiment a lot. Like, she was just, hey, make sure you come back kind of thing, or like stay safe. Like
I don't know why that sounded like a video game cutscene.
But I
should have had Bad Boys video games. I'm sorry.
Oh, I would imagine that would be kind of just like a GTA.
Like, yes, like PlayStation 1 graphics, like.
And like Mike and Marcus are doing that thing where they walk and then they're like kind of like walking into the wall and you have to like turn them around.
Oh man.
But yeah, overall she did great. I didn't really need the love story necessarily, since there was also the other entanglement, which we'll talk about later. I was like, there's too many romantic plot lines. We don't need them all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought she was great.
Yeah. I agree. I think that's my biggest hang up, is that I didn't really buy her and Mike's like Suedo, we used to have a thing kind of thing. And even though Mike is definitely a ladies' man and clearly like not ready to put his player card down and settle down or anything, I feel like, in a weird way, I hate to like characterize him as this, but I feel like he would have skewed younger as he got older, and so it kind of surprised me. And I feel like he wouldn't necessarily dip his ink where, like, company ink. Like, I feel like he wouldn't date another officer. But I just feel like you said, like, there wasn't enough also from her end of like some kind of flame still, because like obviously he probably ended it, just because kind of like what happened with Sid, where, well, she was in law enforcement, but like they definitely had better chemistry, him and Gabrielle Union.
For sure.
So my pitch for the love story of this would have, like, I kind of initially was like, why didn't they have her come back? Like, that would have been great. And then 2, I kind of initially I kind of thought, like, when I saw the Isabel lady, and I was like, oh
Mhm.
my God, she's killing people in prison. I was like, whoa. And I was like, I wish J-Lo would do something crazy like that, because like it would break like what we expect
Yeah.
of her. But
Yes.
when I saw this character, I was like, this is kind of like so easy for her to fall into. And I know people, sorry, this is not the J-Lo season, but like roles like this just make me think like, yes, people get typecast or they get like stuck in being perceived a certain way, but like sometimes there's opportunities in movies you wouldn't expect someone to be in that works in those like what we expect from them. But it's because it's a movie we wouldn't necessarily think of them to be in. Like it's like, oh my God,
Mhm.
I would never like think to put J-Lo in Bad Boys. But like I kind of like I know we've said so many times like she would have ate this role, like,
Mhm.
and I think she would have, and she would have had the like spark. And I know Will fucks with Jayla, like I know he like has
Mhm.
been like, Jada, you see Jada, like, so I know their chemistry like would have singed without even that much like to go off of, like in terms of like any kind of kissing or sex scenes. But yeah, so I hate that because like when we watch movies, and like nothing wrong with Paola, like you said, she's beautiful, she has amazing like beautiful short haircut, rocked the hell out of that dress. But sometimes I watch these things and I'm like, who is on Jayla's team and why are they missing out on these roles? Like, or like who are making these movies and not like, you know who we should call? We
Yeah.
should call Jennifer. But
Yeah.
anyways, moving on.
I wonder if
This
they
was
were
just a
filming this at the same time as Hustlers. Maybe she's busy.
but Hustlers, they maybe, I don't
I don't
know.
know. Just a guess.
It's
But
not
I
that big of a role.
no, I
And
totally
she
agree.
loves
And
playing
you
cops.
know that thought crossed my mind too. I was like, oh, she would have been fantastic in this. And I love, I totally agree with your point with like the surprise role where like, oh, like it
Yeah.
you get a little handful of trail mix and then you get a surprise. It's like the mystery onion ring in a bag of fries. Like, oh, okay. Like
I was not expecting that, but that is absolutely true. And I would love for it to be like one of those roles like where it's not billed, she's not in the trailer, and so
yes.
you watch the movie and you're like, J Lo's in this. It's kind of like Usher's cameo in
Yeah.
Hustlers. You're like,
Yeah.
oh my God, Usher's in this movie and they're playing Love in This Club. Also because they played De Niro, and I was like, they should have put her in this fucking movie. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, here's J-Lo. They're playing Yo Tengo Dinero. I just want, and I was like, see, and it's in Miami. Like, she loves Miami. Like, why? Why? But anyways, I digress. A surprise role that is like the onion ring in the bag of fries. Vanessa Hudgens is in this, and I didn't know
Yes.
she was in this.
Yes, and there's a very obvious High School Musical joke that Mike Lowry makes. He was just like, I don't want to work with some High School Musical looking ass group of kids, whatever, like poking fun the young, making fun of the old, always on their computers, those dang millennials.
Yeah.
Um, so she was good, but it's funny on IMDb, she's like third build and her role was kind of teeny tiny. I
Yeah.
thought she looked great. I loved her like kind of like loose hair on one side and like the braids on the other. She looked very badass holding a gun. And I'm glad that Jennifer Hudgens is also not getting typecasted and has kind of like broken.
Vanessa
Wait, what did I say? Oh, is that, wait, what did I say?
Jennifer
Did I say?
Jennifer Hudgens.
Oh, sorry, Vanessa Hudgens. Sorry, I was thinking about J-Lo, baby. Um, I was thinking of Jennifer Hudson. Sorry. Vanessa
No,
Hudgens.
that's I totally thought, and I was like, she's not in this movie, and then I was like,
Surprise!
oh, J-Lo, Vanessa Hudgens.
Yes. So Vanessa Hudgens, I'm glad, has not been like typecasted. She has been able to kind of like break away from that. We're breaking free. Sorry.
It's taken her a while though. I think
Yes,
she was
it
initially.
was.
So
Yeah.
I
She
love
was
this for
in,
her though.
yeah, she was in a lot of like rom-coms, easy roles to pick
Spring
up. So
Breakers.
Spring Breakers, totally. So I really enjoyed seeing her in more action roles.
She was in second act. But yeah, I'm hoping that this wasn't that long ago, so I'm hoping that this trends upward for her and that
Hmm.
people will see her in a different light from High School Musical now and like maybe give her some big starring roles or
Yeah.
something like a little more. But she could totally she could wind up in a Fast and the Furious movie after this, like,
Oh,
you
for
know. So
sure. Yeah.
um yeah, I really liked seeing her. Um I we don't have to talk about them separately, but what do you think about the other two guys in Ammo?
Yeah, they're fine. They're cute. Um,
Yeah.
I liked the Alexander Ludwig's character was named Dorn, and he was very like open about therapy. And he was like, "Hey,
Yeah.
my therapist is saying that it'd be really beneficial if we did a group session together." And the younger kids were like, "Oh yeah, great." And Mike and Marcus were like, "Sure." No, we're not going to therapy. Again, that trope of like the older generation being opposed to healing their trauma. But I thought that that was pretty funny. I didn't feel like they were making fun of millennials, although they might have been, who knows? But I mean, shit, man.
Yeah.
We want people to be open and advocates about mental health, so
Yeah, I didn't feel like it was like I didn't feel offended by
no.
anything they portrayed the younger kids as. Charles Melton is kind of I feel like he's supposed to be like Mike in a sense, like where he's like good looking and charming, and so like when they go to the club, he's already been let in, and the
Yes.
girls at the door are giving Mike and Marcus a hard time, like you guys gotta get in line. And Mike, of course, he's like, I'm Mike Lowry. Like, so he's like, what do you mean? Like, we're gonna get in. And so when his character Raph comes up and he's like, oh, like my uncles are like, can
They
you
just
let
got
them
a
in?
divorce.
He just got divorced. And I was like, oh, sick burn, sick burn. But in a weird way, it's like I saw this TikTok and it's like, is it just me or like were people like 30ing harder? Like it just feels like they're not that old to be on, like they feel like they look and feel like kids, and he's older than me by like a year, like he's 1991, and I was just like, why do they
Hmm.
seem like so young and like babies, like even compared to like the first Bad Boys movie with Marcus and Mike, like they felt like adults, and that they were young cops, but they felt like cops. I just felt like these were like college kids with like I don't know
I think
badges.
sometimes that's like a mental mind trick that our brain plays on
Age.
us is that like you automatically know someone's old. So even if you see a picture of them or a movie of them when they're 30, when they're your age, you still, nah, they're like 50. Like they're just like permanently kind of like one age in your mind. So it could be something like that.
And he's been in like Riverdale, and
Yes,
maybe
yeah.
that's it.
He's a heartthrob kid. So maybe that's also why too is that Riverdale they're supposed to be like high school age, right? Like 30-year-olds playing high school, but he at least like
Yeah.
looks somewhat young.
Yeah, like they're those baby faced like 30-year-olds who like you're still like Andrew Garfield. Like you're like, how old are you? Like
Yeah.
and he's like almost 40, I think. So like
No.
I
Really?
don't know. I feel like he's like in his mid to late like 30s.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe I'm aging him. He's older than I thought he was.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
he's 39.
Well, goddamn.
But I digress anyways. Moving on from Charles Melton and company. Like you mentioned earlier, DJ Khaled may not be on the soundtrack, but he is in this movie. And this is like what, the third time that he's like made some kind of cameo in a Will Smith movie in the past like 3-4 year span.
Yes.
Um I was not prepared for this. I did not know he was going to be in this. So
Me
that
either,
was
and I literally just screamed, DJ Khaled.
so that was a interesting surprise.
Yeah. His
And
role's so
then
short. He played like a little informant, but I thought that the scene that he had with Mike was pretty funny.
yeah, not on par to the previous snitches and informants from other
Yes.
movies. Like
Yes.
not quite as good, but you know, there's
Yeah.
always got to be one, I guess.
Yeah. Should we
Also,
move on? Oh,
I'm kind of like, what does he have on Will Smith that he keeps like getting work
maybe they're
from? Like,
friends. I don't know.
yeah, but it's just like the running joke. Like, he must have like some dirt on him, and so like Will's like, okay, you can be in Bad Boys for life. Like, don't tell Jada about like what happened
They're
at
emailing
your
each
house
other
in
through their
Miami.
personal willsmith7@gmail.com. He's just like,
Why
please.
7?
I don't know.
um,
Should we move on to
I
the
was
villains of the movie?
Yes, Isabel Arroitas, who is played by Kate Del Castillo,
Mm-hmm.
who, so like I said, originally I was kind of like, I want J-Lo to be crazy like this. But then as I watched the movie and she is portrayed as this witch and into brujeria and santeria and, you know, this kind of
Mm-hmm.
dark magic stuff, I was like, never mind, because I just made a TikTok about like people's opinions on whether or not J-Lo participates, not even is doing it herself, but just like maybe goes to someone who does. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I don't need her acting in a role like this. But two, as I watched the movie and I saw how like kind of unhinged this lady was, I was like, she is killing this shit. So by
She
all means,
was.
continue.
Truly.
Like,
I was vibing with her on her little like rooftop bruja bar with her candles and her pictures. I was
yes.
like, I'll be there with you with a little glass of sangria while you're practicing Santeria. Like, I am there for you. I think she's very interesting to look at, like a very beautiful person, but just kind of like one of
Mm-hmm.
those mesmerizing faces. Um,
Yeah.
and she just, I think, played crazy ass villain really well.
Yeah. I will say, like, I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but she does have, like, that bitch face. So, like, it just works for this role. Like, you
Hmm.
couldn't swap her and Paola. Like, Paola actually, like, looking at her IMDb, she's been in some stuff, and I was like, that's her. Like, she's
Mm.
actually pretty, like, much a chameleon. But, like, this lady seems like she plays bitches a lot based on, like, her other IMDb movies and stuff. I will say part of me, just based on Mike's previous like love interests and whatnot in the other movies, part of me has a hard time believing this was the one lady in all of the ladies that he fell in love with. Although, you know,
I
they had a
know.
connection and had a kid with, spoiler alert, um, but she played the hell out of this role, so like that wasn't a big part of like
Mm.
any problem from me, but like a little like whisper inside is like, really, she's the one. Like,
Yeah, I thought that
um
was interesting. And that was honestly a surprise I didn't see coming and was kind of like, mm, with like, I understand it like complicates the situation a little bit more, but like Mike's little monologue about like it was right before, I moved to Miami and I was like really deep undercover that I got so lost in my um in my character, in my role, whoever he was playing. But you know what I thought was funny is that if that was the case, he must have been pretty fluent in Spanish, or at least like learned most of it. He didn't speak a damn lick of Spanish. I've seen those interviews where Ben Affleck sounds like as if he was born like
yeah.
a native speaker, and I'm like, oh man, I kind of would have liked to have
And
seen
Will
a little bit of
is
that effort.
bilingual. He can speak
Oh,
Spanish because there's an interview with him and Martin, and he asked they're like interviewing each other, and he asked him, and he's like, "Yeah, I can," or like Will can speak Spanish, and he's like says some stuff and then pretty good in Spanish. So I was like, why didn't
damn,
they
missed
utilize that?
opportunity.
But I don't know if they're lying in that interview, but that's what he said,
Hmm.
and he sounded really good. So I was like, what the hell? But yeah, so And two, I always got the impression that Marcus and Mike went to high school together and they kind of made a pact to join the police force. And so I don't know, like that timeline kind of doesn't make sense if
Yeah.
it's like, he before he became like a detective or whatever in Miami, they sent him on this like undercover thing and Marcus didn't know about it. Like,
Hmm.
so either their friendship started once they were partners or whatever, but I always got the impression that they knew each other in high school. Um
Hmm.
but yeah, I would have bought like it's fine that like he fucked some lady on his mission, but like the whole like, we were gonna run off and she was like the
Yeah.
only my first love. Like I was like, really?
I mean, it kind of
I don't know.
explains his like playboy attitude of like, okay, I don't want to like get
Yes.
too close to anyone afterwards. But yes, I agree. I'm like, her? Okay.
But it could have explained that without him like having like that be his first and or like only true love. It could have explained him not getting close to women just because like he got close to her and it compromised his job and his undercoverness and his morals in terms
Hmm.
of like wanting to run off with her, and then on top of her turning out to be a witch, and he was like, I was knee deep in this and like just lost in the sauce and she's all as witch, like, so yeah. And then mega reveal, his son who is the shooter who shot him, who shot Captain Howard and all these other
Yes.
people involved in Isabel's arrest. um what a what a twist.
Truly, what a twist. And I thought it was interesting that Mike was the one who came to the conclusion himself, not Isabel like revealing that to him, like them meeting up and she'd be like, this is your son or whatever. Like he was just like,
Yeah.
dude, I think that's my fucking kid. Like, here's the timeline of it all. And of course, like that's where we get a lot of really great dialogue. Would you fuck a witch without a condom? No, he would
And
not, Mike.
it's so funny because they're on the plane, and so Marcus sits behind him, and
Hmm.
so they're like having this conversation. So the people sitting next to them in their respective aisles are just kind of like, what the hell
Hell.
is going on? So that's hilarious. And then, I mean, it just makes two. Okay, so Odie in his review talks about like how things are kind of like similar to Gemini Man.
Mm-hmm.
So his son is played by Jacob Scipio,
Hmm.
and his name is Armando Aretas.
Hmm.
And most of his hits, most of his kills, he's on a motorcycle in all black helmet and
Yes.
just like is shooting and killing people. Besides Captain Howard, he is in a hotel sniping or on a
Mm-hmm.
roof. And so that part kind of is like Gemini Man in terms of like one of the big action sequences is like the younger Will versus the older Will on dirt bikes,
Hmm.
and he's kicking his ass on a dirt bike. But like I didn't naturally draw that conclusion, and we just watched that.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. But like in terms of how like when Marcus is like, of course he's your son. No wonder he whooped your ass. Like only only someone with like your DNA, and the fact
Yeah.
that he's like so well trained and stuff. That does remind me of Gemini Man, where it's just like you can't beat a younger you in a sense.
Yeah, because you
And
know your
so
every move or whatever.
yeah, or like, he has Mike's like DNA and his kind of like just trigger happiness and go fast and live fast, die hard, whatever, bad boys for life kind of attitude, but he's
Hmm.
using it for evil.
Hmm.
Well, and it sucks because he's being used. His mom is using him to get back. It's like baby mama drama to the 10,000th degree because she's bitter that he like got her locked up and he didn't know she was pregnant, and then she enlists their love child to inflict pain in his life by killing all these people and like his dear captain and shooting him.
Yeah.
And he mistakenly is like, oh, well, I just wanted to get him out of the way. And she's like, no, you idiot. He needs to suffer. And luckily he lives through that to suffer. But like, you know, how fucked, like, that kid needs some therapy. He needs to call whoever Dorn's going to, because how fucked up is it that your mom is like trying to get back at your dad by having you like try to murder him and like murder all these people?
And he didn't know that that was his dad. So, like, it wasn't until fucking Marcus almost having a whole ass Toy Story 3 death with, like, being dropped into the fire.
Hasta la fuego.
You know, he was just like, is it true? Is that my dad? And she was just like, it doesn't matter, whatever. You know, he has that realization, like, oh, fuck. So he, like, tries to repay his debt. And he will be in jail. He killed a lot of people. But as the kind of Avengers way of ending that, it seems as though Mike goes to visit him in jail, and he goes, how about, you know, earning some time back and repaying off some of that debt? So question mark, lots of gray area on that one, lots of gray area on that wish. But I think I liked Armando a lot as a villain. I thought he when he gets Isabel and they out of prison, and he kind of overtakes, it's not so much a drug cartel as it is like a gun like weaponry cartel, it kind of seems like, because those were like the bullets they were using in their guns. Maybe I was not watching that fully correctly, but he like fucking took out like a bunch of people, like with both fist fighting, because like I think that's what I didn't like about
he had a knife.
Yeah,
but it was
there
like
was a lot of like
combat.
Yes, there was more hand-to-hand combat and less just like bang bang shoot 'em up. Even though yes, he is a sniper, I do get that. He had a lot more hand-to-hand combat. He could fucking take a hit and he can give a hit really well. So to me, he was like, ooh, he's a badass villain.
Yeah, like that scene, I was like, oh fuck, like this is like, okay, let me like pay attention a little bit like harder, because that's like when it escalates in terms, like that's some of the first violence that happens, because prior to that it's like baby and like we're getting old kind of stuff. And she breaks out of jail, which also she hand-to-hand combat kills like a CO in jail, and like has like a gang of women help her like pretty much shiv her to death, or you know, shank her to death. So like maybe he got a little bit from her too.
Got sprinkle.
Yeah, and he's also very attractive. I was like, he's a hot villain. Very much more handsome than Johnny Tapito, which I feel like they had to do because he's Mike's son. It's like, you know, of course he's gonna be like suave and good looking. Anyone else we're missing? I don't think so. I will say Michael Bay does appear in this. He is the wedding MC at Marcus' daughter's wedding. And so it threw me when I found out that he didn't direct this. So, curious. I should have looked into that, because I don't know why he didn't direct it.
Yeah.
Moving on to the man of the hour.
Sure. Let's do it.
Will Smith as Mike Lowry and the third installment of the Bad Boys movie. I feel like he was a little less suave this movie. He still had like that like trigger happy, like we gotta do the dirty work. And I feel like too, I could definitely see like the actor thespian training that has occurred throughout these movies. Like there were like when he was begging Marcus, like, come on man, just one more time, like you know, you think I'm just gonna let this go kind of thing. Like he had those teary eyes, and I was just like, that is a little acting. But he had like a good nuance to Mike this time, I feel like, of not being able to let go until that conversation with the captain of like just going balls to the wall every day, but like for what reason? And so part of that horse analogy is that like you're on a horse and someone is like, hey, where are you going? And it's like, I don't know, like wherever the horse takes me. And it's like he is just doing stuff to do it, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
there's no purpose. Like, what's your end game? Like, what do you want your life, your legacy to be, besides, Bulletproof Mike? And so I feel like in like his actions, like with tagging up with ammo and not being able to like sit in the surveillance van and just let the gadgets do like some of the dirty work, and like being like, no, we got to go in there, and like that kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff really helped kind of with some of that undertones of like him just not really maturing and growing up and like growing at all as a person in a
Yeah.
way. And so I feel like he kind of did a little bit in this movie finally, but yeah.
Yeah. In a weird way, this movie reminded me, and I will finish the point. This movie reminded me of the Backstreet Boys documentary that came out because they had this, a funny scene where they're singing the Bad Boy song, and then Marcus is like, "Oh no, we're not bad boys anymore. We're good men." And Mike's like, "Who the fuck wants to sing that song? Nobody." Like, you don't want to go through the motion of like memorizing a new song, whatever, whatever. But it brought up this notion of like, we're not boys anymore. We can't be thinking like these trigger happy frat boy. I'm thinking about the episode that we did recently with No More Late Fees when talking about Brad Pitt's character in Seven, how he was the one that was just like trigger punch angry, like always
Mm-hmm.
being very on high alert and very defensive. And I don't think Mike is that extreme as that character and like douchey as that character. Um, but definitely still thinks with his gun first, before he like might fully think through a situation. And why it made me think of this Backstreet Boys documentary was like, I don't know the title of it off the top of my head, but it's the the original five grappling with the fact that we can't call ourselves a boy band anymore because we are grown ass men with families and children and lives, and we are not boys anymore. We are men, and we've lost some of that like young appeal, energetic energy, but we can still like reach our fans in certain ways. But and we also have to do better by setting a better example. And in the documentary, there's a point here. Brian and Kevin butt heads with Nick, who tends to be the trigger happy frat boy, like angry puppy dog energy. And Nick is kind of a douche. And Brian, you did me wrong because you're a little QAnon and you support Trump, so you disappoint me. But and moving on, but they're like, hey, we got to move on from that. We got to do better. We got to set a better example for our fans and like be there for each other. So in that weird kind of loop-de-loop way of me connecting with this movie, I was like thinking about the conversations that Marcus and Mike were having of like, you can still be a cop, you can still do good for people, but you can't always, fight with violence. And then when they break into the
Yeah.
captain's house and he's just like, MLK just stepped down, you got Malcolm now. Like, he doesn't always learn those lessons fully. And so I kind of wish we saw a little bit more growth and development in that character.
Yeah. Um I wonder if it's just like kind of part of being a cop too. That it's
Maybe
like
you're
he
just
can't really
hardened.
like, yeah, but that scene's in the trailer too, where like Marcus is like, your opening line, I'm gonna appeal to like, I'm gonna penetrate this man's soul with my heart. I'm gonna talk to him
Mm-hmm.
instead of like coming in here guns a blazing and stuff. And like initially too, he's like, what just happened to talking and knocking? Like just a knock and talk. And they
Mm-hmm.
knocked down his door. So it was a knock, but like a knockdown. And that doesn't work. So like I think it's a good push and pull too of like Marcus is, wants to retire, wants to be the family man that he is fully, and is softer now. Oh, Marcus cries a lot too in this. He cries at the
Mm-hmm.
wedding.
Mm-hmm.
He cries when he holds his grandbaby and stuff. So like you can get a sense of that. And I feel like it's a good push and pull versus like Mike just like being like, yeah, you're right, man. I gotta like, because in some ways Mike is right. Like sometimes, he's a criminal accountant. Like, what are we talking to him for? Like, and
Mm-hmm.
that dude's like on coke or whatever he snorted, and is just like talking all crazy and fighting back at them. So it's like, in
Mm-hmm.
that sense, yeah, we gotta fight fire with fire. And then towards the end too, Mike is going to Mexico once he figures out, okay, like, this is my son trying to kill me, and so I gotta go, and I'm not gonna bring anyone with me. But Marcus goes anyways because he's like, we ride together, we die together. But like, once they get to Mexico and they get settled into like their hotel, like for a teensy bit, Ammo shows up and
Mm-hmm.
he's like, you called them, and he's like, yeah, I did because we
Mm-hmm.
need help and I feel better when they're here. And then Mike's like, you know what, I do too. So there's a little bit, it kind of reminded me a bit of the scene at the end of the first movie where it's like, I love you, man. And like,
Mm-hmm.
he's like kind of giving it a little bit like a glimpse of like, okay, I'm not this super hard guy, but or I can take a little bit direction. Like, yeah, okay, yeah, we do
You're
need
right.
backup.
You're right. He said like we don't talk about this a lot, but like thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
He had a little bit of growth.
So, but yeah, like I do feel like Mike is always kind of gonna be a w- being Will kind of role in a way because
Mm-hmm.
he's like funny, he's suave, he's good looking, he's a good dresser and all that stuff. But I do think he kind of brought some tools with him this time that he didn't necessarily have in the first two movies. So that was cool to see kind of come through a bit in this character. And even like initially he was going to Mexico, he was like, I gotta kill my son. And like that's another thing they talked on the plane, that like one of the passengers was just like, oh, what?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and he was like, yeah, I'm gonna kill him and put him in a bag. Like it just has to end. And even that, like he saved him. He could have killed Armando
Mm-hmm.
easily. He had him kind of in his grasp, so to speak, but he saved him. And also Armando helped save Marcus. So like there's that like interesting dynamic of like, yeah, Armando was bad, but he's not all bad either,
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. And also at the end, like Odie said, that kind of cut scene where Mike goes to his wherever he's imprisoned and is like, you could help take some time off. Do you want to do that? Do you want to try to see if you can like help kind of the police in some way,
Mm-hmm.
probably? And he doesn't have to do that. Also too, he's like, you did a lot of shit. Like, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
going to tell you you're going to get off,
Yeah.
but no matter what, I'm going to be there, because he's like, you're my son.
Mm-hmm.
And so he could have definitely been like, my son is crazy, fuck him, like lock him
Yeah.
up, like
Yeah.
let him rot in jail. And so there's, and maybe him finding out he is a father is like in a weird way softening him too as well.
Yeah.
um but yeah,
That's a good
i,
point.
I like this. I don't think this is my favorite Mike Lowry. That I think too is just he's a smoke show and two. So like, and one we get the shirtless running scene,
Oh, we
like,
sure do. And like just the tight, like I mean their shirts were tight, but like he had like that tight little like turtleneck with the short sleeves. It
yeah.
was rude.
I think it sucks too because I think they both got in better shape like once they were promoting the movie. Like I
Mm-hmm.
feel like they look a little bit trimmer and slimmer. Like I know Martin hurt his back, so he couldn't work out to prep for the movie or during the
Ah.
movie, but he definitely looked like he, and it worked for Marcus because like he
He's
retired and so,
retiring. Yeah. Get a softer
but
dad bod. It's okay.
But I know too they're older, and so they were like, this time we let the stunt guys earn their paycheck. Like we're like, so how much of this we gonna do? Because we're not
Yeah.
gonna, they are accepting their age in a way.
Hmm.
Um, and I think Will got in good shape. During the press tour, I think he looks amazing. But he looks different to me in like the
I
promo stuff.
agree. But I think consistently Will's like been in good shape, right? Like I've never
Yeah.
seen him actually for our next movie, King Richard, he does go through some transformations and changes and then in Emancipation, he looks a lot different. So but honestly, I just feel like, I Am Legend, Hancock, 7 pounds, he was pretty slim in that, but then put muscle back on for Men in Black, After Earth, um,
Suicide
Focus,
Squad.
Suicide Squad for sure. So he's someone that's like always been like in good shape to me.
Yeah.
It's just
I
like a
think,
variation of like more muscular or like slimmer.
yeah. I think that in general, that just helps, like, if you're in good shape when you're younger, like,
Mm,
even if you don't work out as much, like, that muscle form and stuff kind of still lies underneath and holds some
yeah.
stuff together. So I think, like, I mean, although on his YouTube, he does have a series about like the best shape of his life where he's trying to get off his COVID quarantine pounds.
Hmm.
So he did get like a little bit of a like kind of beer belly ish, like for the most he's been probably ever. But
Hmm.
he is older, but like I think even though I'm saying like he doesn't look like he's not like ripped here, I think his workouts from previous like things helped him like kind of maintain a silhouette of sorts.
Hmm.
And then COVID kind of obliterated that in a different way. But anyways, don't want to body shame him or
Sure.
anything
No, no,
like
no.
that.
Yeah, not at
But
all. Not at all.
I think it actually works for these movies. Like,
Agreed.
you definitely
We
get a
want them
sense
to
that they're
naturally
older.
age. Yeah.
Yes. And Black Don't Crack, they still look good, like for their
Sure do.
age. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, if this, I'm trying to think of somebody else. If this was the original John Lovett Dana Carvey like duo
Oh
that
my God.
had been,
They would have never made a sequel if that would have been it.
yeah. Two, it's funny because like Odie mentions like the classic, like I'm getting too old for this shit line,
Mm.
and I feel like they look better than like Danny Glover even looked in Lethal Weapon, and I'm pretty sure he was younger than they are in this one at
Yeah.
that point. So, and I don't know too if that's just my mind being like, oh yeah, Danny Glover's always been older in my mind. So he's like this old man in Lethal Weapon, but like he does, to me at least, he does skew like older in that regard. But
Hmm.
there are lots of interviews of
Yeah.
them. Did you have any notes from any or any standout like moments and stuff?
No, I really appreciate though, I feel like recently the past like handful of movies that we've watched, there's a lot of content on Will's YouTube channel. So
Mm-hmm.
again like being in the, is it Overbook or Overbrook?
Overbrook.
Overbrook. Okay. In the, being involved in the with the production company of it all, like that's when you kind of tend to see more like behind the scene footage of stuff that goes on his direct YouTube channel. But there's a lot of good content that has the first week back on set, how they shot some of their more difficult scenes, and like kind of wrapping up the project. Will and Martin do several interviews together, obviously through different platforms and stations, but nothing necessarily that's uh like sticking out to me. But I just appreciate that like Will kind of has his own archive of documenting these things and kind of seeing his perspective of the making of the movie versus someone else's.
Yeah, it was cool to see them like shooting pictures like for the movie or like Will in like some office, like I'm guessing for the production
Mm.
stuff. It was at some point he gave like the directors like his blog cam or something, and that was cool too because that's when I realized Michael Bay didn't direct this, and I was like, what? And I was like, and oh, how do you feel about that? Because I feel like I kind of feel like it would have I would have given this like more stars if Michael Bay did it, and I know he's like got his own
Hmm.
problematic things, but I do feel like he brought a magic and like definitely a visual language to these
Definitely
movies,
a type.
and I feel like they tried to mimic that in some ways, but we definitely didn't have any big explosions. We did have like the beautiful car and beautiful chase scene. Well, I mean, there's a huge fire, yes, but it don't go kaboom like, um,
I
and
noted the same thing. I did say one of my last notes. So this was after the motorcycle car chase scene, which ends with the helicopter. And
mm-hmm.
that I was just like, this movie has a lot of really good action, but definitely missed the over the top explosions. But I really liked the stunt work, like when Will hopped on the back of that flatbed truck,
Mm-hmm.
and had that sequence and hanging off
And
from a ladder.
when they were in the motorcycle, which has a sidecar, that was like
Yeah,
a lot of good action, but also funny because like Marcus is trying to be anti, like he's like, I made her promise to God that I wouldn't,
yeah.
commit any more violence to save your life, and like Mike is like, that gun, who do you think gave you that gun? Like God put that there for you to help in your time of need. And he's kind of like preaching to him, and he's like, yeah, you're right. And it's like this Gatling kind of gun like that you'd see like on a tank or something in a
Hmm.
motorcycle sidecar. But there was good action, but it's not the same action.
Yeah.
um and then visually, like when I think of the first movie, I think of like how warm it felt, like it had that,
The Miami glow.
orangey. Yeah, and I feel like this felt less Miami. It was
Yes,
there, but
with the exception of like the club scene where it was like the strip that they were walking down, and there was a scene where they were on the jet skis on the beach, and that kind of reminded me of the
mhm.
Miami music video a little bit from Will Smith.
Yeah.
Um, but I think the movie kind of made up for the lack of explosions with the helicopter crashing into that decrepit building and having that like building
Fire.
fire
Yeah.
happen. Um, it would have been fucking hot in there. It would have been damn near impossible to have like
I
withstood
I
that
love
heat
the
for so long.
Yeah, I love the line because Marcus is almost meeting a Toy Story like death in
Yeah,
this fire, and Mike has his hand, and
yeah.
he's like, "Mike, don't let me go. I don't want to die this way." He's like, "I can feel my ass cooking," and then Armando finally like helps Mike pull him back
Yeah.
up too, but that kind of dialogue is like earlier when I was saying like I felt like it took a while for Martin to kind of like b- deliver, because like you said, like the scene where they're on the like driving, so the first opening chase scene, it's not even a chase, they're trying to get to the
The
hospital,
speed,
but
yeah.
they're speeding through downtown Miami. They have police escorts, and like they're like drifting and shit through Miami, and they turn and they're driving on the beach. And
Mm.
so Mike's like, damn, there's a lot of rich white people, like my bad. And Marcus is like, sorry, you guys, we're police officers. Like, we'll pull ourselves over later. Like, that delivery was so bad and like didn't land to me. I was like, they didn't need to put that in. Like,
It
that wasn't
reminded
a
me
good
of the
line.
line like we're just here to borrow a cup of sugar from the first one, but it's not as
Yes.
funny.
Yes. And so like I was just like that wasn't that didn't hit the same as that one did, because
Hmm.
like with that one he was like, "Hello, we're police officers. Can't we just borrow a cup of sugar? Like, how he said it is so much, like, more funny. And I think he finally got, like, some of those, like, rhythms and, like, how he delivered stuff by, like, the heat and the middle and end of the movie, like, you know, being like, I can feel my ass cooking, like, you know, or like the whole movie, Mike is, because they're getting older too, this was a funny bit, he's like, where are your glasses? And
Oh,
this is
yeah. And he's like, it's like
such a true thing. Yes.
And he puts them on.
And that kind of too reminded me of number 2 when he's on the ecstasy and he's like looking through the fishbowl.
Okay, that part was pretty funny.
And he's like, do you see this shit? Like,
Yeah.
But like the glasses thing, like the way he delivered that, and it's not like, and maybe that's it, it's not like an over the top joke where like they're driving and he's like looking out the window with his badge up, like, we're police officers, don't mind us, we'll pull ourselves over later. Like, but he's just like in the moment, he's like, damn, this shit's like HD. And he actually shoots well with the glasses. He's like shooting at the helicopter, and Mike's like, don't shoot the pilot, shoot the rotor, like, so when it falls, it's not still like going. But he actually is able to shoot the pilot because of the glasses. And he has like better viewing and stuff. So like things like that are like where I was like, yeah, like it finally like picked up and he was able to like,
yeah,
I don't know, get his rhythm, so to speak. And I'm curious too, like, films aren't always shot sequentially, but it felt like towards that stuff he got funnier. So I don't know, like maybe he shot the beach scene last and it was just like, you know, over it or something.
Could be.
But yeah, I picked up on that. Were there any other like one-liners or anything else, like quotes that stood out to you, or just plot points?
When the captain chugs the little Pepto-Bismol bottle. Thought that was funny. I don't know. I'm like, I watched it last night. It's still fairly fresh in my mind. I still felt as though the comedy felt like pretty beat for beat. Like they kind of found their rhythm later on with with their back and forth banter and stuff. And I appreciated that the trailer also didn't give away like too much of the funny stuff, like that there was still some left sprinkled in for surprise.
How do you feel about Mike getting shot, or like that whole like kind of plot point and device?
It startled me because again, I didn't see that coming, and I didn't think he was gonna die.
A mood killer.
It totally was.
I was like, it's too early.
Yeah, I knew he wasn't going to die.
They were having like a cute little foot race, like, oh, I'm still
yeah, that
you
was
kind of
cute.
Thing.
Yeah,
and then it had that good slow down energy, like, something's wrong, and like Marcus spots the guy on the motorcycle, and Mike is just like, yeah, I'm kicking your ass, and he turns around and is running backwards, and just all that, like, it's just like like it's like you can see it happening. So but yeah, I knew he wasn't gonna die. It would have shocked the fuck out of me if they did kill him.
Oh yeah, no way, because I mean that was so early on in the film that like then Marcus would have had to carry that whole thing by himself with the new team, and I think it would have, if anyone was going to die besides the captain, I thought maybe it was going to be reversed, that like Marcus gets severely injured and Mike has to like have a vendetta out, and he's just like, I don't care if that's my son, like I'm gonna kill that part, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm glad that they didn't go that route. I didn't want this movie to be like a very dark story.
No.
So but yeah,
I did think it was cute that Mike is like probably in coma or something, but Marcus is
the cocoa bean. That was funny. It's just like, I know you're dying. I know that's midnight cocoa bean.
Or like at the end, Mike gives Marcus and Teresa like a vacation, and it's like, I'll watch little Marcus. Also, Marcus's grandbaby is named Marcus
Mm-hmm.
Jr. or whatever, or Marcus the second, and so he makes a joke about like Viagra's, like,
You got
make
them
sure you
little
take
blue
those pills.
pills.
Yeah, with you. He's like, I don't need Viagra. Oh, so the plane scene is so funny because there's just that whole
Yeah.
conversation, but he's talking to Mike about the witch, and so he's like, she'll make your eyes melt into your stupid ass head. She'll make your dick fall off, and then he looks at the like little white girl next to him and he's like, I meant penis. It's like, you should be minding your business anyways. And that was really funny to me. Um, what else? Oh, when he's like watching. Oh, because Mike goes in to meet with Isabel by himself to like talk it out and like, I know
Mm-hmm.
he's my son, blah blah blah, and I know you're mad. Um, and so they're kind of doing surveillance and stuff and watching him. And so Marcus is watching, and because he watched the telenovelas with the older ladies like babysitting, when he's like, this is some real telenovela shit, like that
Yes.
was really funny to me. um Oh, too, when he's in the sidecar. Most of this is from IMDb too. But
Yeah.
when he's in the sidecar and he's like, is there anything like in there? And he's like, it's like an angry white man's basement in here. Like there's just so many guns in the sidecar.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I liked when he's like, you've got a fucked up family, Mike,
Yeah.
because all the stuff that's going on. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, those are kind of the funny bits. So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I'm glad that it got funnier for me and that it wasn't like completely cheesy or like cringy. So that
Mm-hmm.
was a saving grace.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they did a lot of interviews. By all means, they're all pretty enlightening. I would suggest to watch like the Sway interview is cool because he
Mm-hmm.
actually Sway loves hip hop. He's from the Bay Area as well, and you probably remember him from MTV.
Hell yeah.
But he loves hip hop, and so he's like, my favorite song of yours is fuck, I'm forgetting the song. But he asked Will to rap, and so Will raps in that
Mm.
interview, so that's pretty cool. And then the Breakfast Club interviews, kind of similar. Um, definitely watch all Will's YouTube stuff because that's cool because you get to see him acting stupid and
Mm-hmm.
like the sequence of him in his office like is funny because he's like, this is my office, and he just starts throwing like the granola bars in the basket on the floor because he's like, I can do what I want in here, and he's like standing on the desk.
Mm-hmm.
um okay, well, I feel like I'm like drawing this out, so
No, it's okay.
I will say though,
Okay.
I think, I don't know what episode it was, but I did say that I felt like the way they could, oh, I think it was like with Jaden, that like it would have been cool for him to be in Bad Boys, or like for Mike to have a son, like
Oh,
a
yeah.
legitimate son somehow.
Uh-huh.
And so my idea kind of made
You
it, so
got
I
it.
did note that. But yeah, snack and cocktail. Whoo, man. This, you definitely need like a retirement scotch or whiskey or
Ooh.
something that
Yeah.
like is really pricey and expensive that maybe
Mm-hmm.
you got for saving someone's life and you've been saving it, or it's a retirement gift.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but I would drink some, or a tequila because it's Miami, so I would
Mm-hmm.
drink something really expensive
Yeah.
for this one. And I feel like I said a Cuban sandwich
You
for
did.
Bad Boys. So why not? I'm gonna keep going with that. Or what did Marcus eat while he was retired? Oh, that scene too was cute when he was like in his robe and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
like settling into retired life. And then comparison, Mike was like gearing back up with his suit
Yeah.
and stuff to like be Mr. Policeman again. Um, did he eat anything when
I
he was
don't
retired?
remember off the top of my head.
Not to DoorDash, probably.
There you go.
What about you? Did you look something up?
I didn't. I was kind of inspired by the Pepto-Bismol chug, but I don't want to think of a pink drink.
Pepto Bismol drink.
But what I did like is that scene that you just referred with Marcus on retirement, and he like had a literal like a juice jug, a carafe of wine, and I love that. So that's what I'm going. For food, I'm gonna, gosh, I don't know. I feel
Maybe
like
something from like a food truck because I feel like ammo. I don't know if their truck was like a food truck or not, but that's a good cover truck.
Oh
Like a
yeah,
survivor's truck.
definitely.
Oh, the Pepto Bismol. I did think to myself, I was like, I should buy Pepto Bismol and empty it and put something similarly in it and just like drink it around work and just be like, hey, I got a question. And like, like how people were emptying mayonnaise containers and
Yes.
putting like whipped cream or something in it and
And
being
just like,
and people were like, ah, like, I don't know, that inspired me
yeah.
to do that. So, in honor of Captain Howard, a little Pepto shot, pre-shot, and follow that up with something.
Love it.
All right, I think that's it then.
All right.
Close this mamma jam out, and we're down to one movie.
We're down to one. Well, two, kind of. We're one movie plus some follow-up episodes plus some
Are
other
we doing an Oscars
brackets.
episode?
Bria, I think we might. I think that's honestly, if we do, watch that be our Bennifer episode. Watch that be the most listened to episode.
Probably, yeah. Unfortunately, it's always the bullshit and the drama that gets the views.
The drama.
All right, everybody. Well, I hope you're looking forward to the bullshit and the drama. But thank you for listening to this week's episode. And to the people who stuck with us so far, please come back for another episode of the Miami-Dade version of Inside the Actor Studio.
But seriously, if you like us enough to stick around, hop in that little sidecar with us and take another deep dive down this IMDb rabbit hole as we discuss Will Smith and the award-winning, slightly controversial film King Richard.
Well, the film's not controversial.
Agreed.
It was award-winning. It was controversial.
Yes, agreed.
And not even because you know why, people. We don't have to tell you that. But on that note, if you've got nothing better to do, go figure out a theme to watch a bunch of movies you've never seen. Maybe a little Bad Boys rewatch trilogy action.
And I'm your host, Simone. You can subscribe to This Blessed Mess. Leave us a like if you're into it. We also have a bunch of really cool, fun merch on Redbubble. So if you follow us on our social medias, which Bria will drop down in just a second, you can find our little Redbubble link. And you too can rock that mustard butter yellow.
Wipe off those buttery trigger fingers
and go.
Give us a review. Put on your HD glasses. Take a look at our social media and follow us at Roll Call Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and my favorite, Twitter. Listen to us on YouTube as well. Drop us some comments there. We have a lot of YouTube views. I don't know how many people are fully listening to them, but they are higher than I expected.
Okay.
So to all you YouTube listeners, by all means, thank you. And also in the link in our podcast bio, there is a link to call us, leave us a message, be featured in the show, give us some feedback, tell us your favorite episode, ask us some questions. I don't know. Talk to us, people. And on that note, this has been another episode of
We Ain't Going Nowhere. Roll calls not going anywhere. Because
I do wish they had a standout song like that for this.
Yeah,
one.
for sure.
Because that's another point for Bad Boys 2. The fucking soundtrack,
the soundtrack was fire.
Is we do this for fun. We do this podcast for fun.
We do this for fun. All right.
But
Roll
yeah.
call, roll call. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when we come for you? And cut! Bria, what would your Bad Boys fan fiction, what would your storyline be?
Well, if you listen to the podcast, you would know I'm probably the hornier one of the two. So it'd be like smutty Mike Lowry like hookups.
The sexcapades of Mike Lowry.
Yes.
I love it.
A bit of domesticity from Marcus. Like maybe he's getting some like under the covers side action from Teresa. Or in the pantry or laundry room.
Oh my goodness.
And now welcome to 50 Shades of Red, White, and NYPD or Miami-Dade Blue.
This probably is one of my most favorite intros ever.